Hello everyone, and welcome to the Unlearning Talk series of the Start Create Cultural Change event. The Unlearning Talk is a series of talks on resilience and sustainability in the sociocultural sector with a focus on Southeastern Europe. My name is Maria Luisa Laupodi. I'm speaking to you from Thessaloniki in Greece, and I will be your host for this online event. This event is part of the START program. START is a capacity building and fellowship program for aspiring cultural managers in Greece. The program supports creative minds to kickstart cultural initiatives that generate a positive social impact on their local communities. This year, the START program has supported again 30 cultural managers from Greece by offering a professional placement in 30 different socio-cultural centers all over Germany. 15 of those cultural managers have moved forward, and with the program support, they have implemented their innovative initiatives in 9 cities around Greece until June 2020. I would like to take you through this journey with a short video we have prepared. The START program is coming to a conclusion this year. And while thinking how we would like to conclude, we understood that a lot of the work that had been developed in the projects we supported could be relevant to other areas in our region. And similarly, other projects could have a lot to share with our community. So we designed this series of talks to spread beyond Greece and Germany. And in the Southeastern European space, as very often, challenges remain the same when working towards sustainable cultural interventions. The Unlearning talks evolve around 3 thematic cycles. Cycle 1, coping with emerging crises, challenges, and trends. Cycle 2, resilient models of sociocultural entrepreneurship. And Cycle 3, building new collaborative methods of cooperation and networks, which is starting today, this 3rd cycle, and will continue with 2 more talks until Thursday, October 1st. Now, each cycle spans over 3 days, from Tuesday to Thursday every week. And every day, there is a different topic and a very rich and diverse lineup of speakers from Southeastern Europe. For more information, you can visit the startgreece.net website. You as an audience can ask our speakers any questions you wish by downloading the Slido app, either on Google Play or the App Store. The event code on Slido is #91781. So let me take you through the program. Today's talk is part of the 3rd and last cycle, and it is entitled Introducing the Future of a Sustainable Network. As we wave of the COVID-19 crisis, that has landed on our communities, workplaces, and economies, we're discovering that our collaborative initiatives are becoming even more important as a way to maintain momentum on important sustainability issues. However, building lasting partnerships in the region has always been a challenge. So our speakers will expand their experiences and views on this issue and present to us interesting cases. Before we go into more detail, I would like to welcome our international sign language translator, Apostolis Margaritidis. The shift to online events offers the possibility to more people from different locations to access the content. In our efforts to be as inclusive as possible, we believe that offering such interpretation can widen the audience and the dialogue for cultural development. We will start with the presentations of our 5 speakers and then continue to the Q&A. This part of the Q&A is participatory by design, as you, the audience, can join by sending to us your questions and comments. Moving forward, I would like to welcome the speakers of the 7th Unlearning talk. Sanda Rakočević from YouSee and Upbeat Hub in Montenegro, Reluca Voyner from Transit in Romania, Marko Heinke from Zukunftswerkstatt Gustavus Haus in Germany, Hermes Arriaga from Zagreb Impact Hub in Croatia, and Nikos Vandoros from Culture for Change in Greece. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us. Let's start with the first speaker, Sanda Rakočević. Sanda is Executive Director of ADPZ, active in the civil sector since 1998. She has experience in the field of project cycle management and management of social innovation. Additionally, she has special skills, knowledge, and experience in the development and testing of social innovations in the field of youth, employment, tourism, and ICT. At national level, she's an active member of the technical committee established by the Institute for Standardization for Montenegro. She is also one of the creators and founders of Social Impact Hub in Montenegro, while also being the author and publisher of a lot of articles and analyses in the field of social innovation and social policies. She will present to us how a project can bring to life a network. Sanda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. On first place, I want to thank you, the organizers, for invitation. It's really honor to be here with you. I will speak today about YouSee platform. YouSee platform actually is a network for social innovations in youth employment. Development of platform officially started 2015, but we start much before, because YouSee platform for social innovation actually is a consortium of civil society organization from Western Balkan countries, and that is actually of all partners from this network are traditional partners of ZID. Represents from North Macedonia in YouSee platform is Youth Cultural Center, from Kosovo is Lens, from Albania is Beyond Barriers, from Serbia it's Napor, from Bosnia and Herzegovina is Southeast European Youth Network. And from Montenegro is ADPZ, and also ADPZ is leader of the YouSee platform. YouSee platform is a big different, from one side different, and from the other it's specific because of the different target groups. Actually, different main purpose for realization of activities in the community. What you see is actually for decision makers. YouSee is a regional platform for proposing solutions for youth employment. And we are working a lot with on the field of new active policy employment measure, for proposing new services, new management models in employment policy, measuring results of employment, of active employment measure, proposing recommendation, researching, and actually the situation in the Western Balkan region in all countries is practically the same. And because of that, through YouSee platform, we are working a lot on the institutionalization and decentralization of system, and that is a really big challenge for all of us. From the other side, in focus we have practitioners, and YouSee is a regional platform for promoting of inspiring practice and supporting networking among practitioners. As you say on the beginning of your speech, that all of us can together can change something and can make bigger effort and bigger results in the on the local level in our communities. That is the reason why we're trying to connect and interconnect connecting also practitioners. And we are working that we are succeeded through showcasing good practices and different examples through chronicles, networking, promotion activities, capacity buildings, motivational events, meetups, and etc. Actually, we are using each opportunity to interconnecting both sides, how we and to interconnect all region, how they can together start to work on practically same issue. And actually, the main target group is unemployment youth and youth in risk of marginalization. And YouSee is a regional platform for encouraging people to overcome the difficulties of entering to the labor market. That could be a little bit strange because maybe someone can ask why someone can be afraid of the entering of labor market. But situation in our region that it's a bit tough with first employment opportunity, and usually young people waiting really a lot for this first opportunity. And after a while, young people and youth generally start to losing self-confidence, and that is a really big issue. And because of that, we have a really plenty of regional activity, which are generally based on capacity building, motivation for social innovation, motivation for creating own working place, for motivation for developing social business, etc. And that is the main purpose what we are doing as a network. On the end, the YouSee platform and during last 5 years developed 7 regional policy documents related to youth employment and more than 30 national documents with recommendation for consortium countries. We recognize the different needs and we tested this policy recommendation, but maybe during the event I will have much more time to speak about policy changes and policy recommendations. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Sanda. It sounds like your project has affected policy in these regions very much, and this is quite interesting for all of us. So I'm sure we will get back to that in the Q&A. Let us now invite the next speaker from Romania. Reluca Voyner is a curator and art critic based in Bucharest. Since 2012, she's co-director of Transit.ro Association. From 2012 as well to 2019, she managed the space of this organization in Bucharest, which included an art gallery, a communitarian permaculture garden, and an orangery, a space she calls for hosting fragile plants and ideas, all developed organically and in response to both a local context and to more international frameworks. In 2013, Reluca was the curator of the Romanian pavilion at the 55th Venice Biennale with the project An Immaterial Retrospective of the Venice Biennale by artists Alexandra Pirici and Manuel Pelmuș. And she will present to us how transit operates. So Reluca, welcome. You can start your presentation.
Thank you, Maria Luisa, for the introduction, and to all the team for the fantastic work of inviting us and bringing us together for this very well technically choreographed evening. It's not easy to meet under these circumstances, and especially when we are talking about networks and about exchanging information and experiences. We are used with other ways of interacting with each other, and we are very much missing those these days. So I'm myself, I come from a background of cultural institution and network. Its name is Transit.org, and it has been operational starting with its first organization in 2002 in Prague, in the Czech Republic. That was the first transit that was established, and then others joined in this region, Central and Eastern European countries. What we have in common is our main partner and funder, which is Erste Foundation in Vienna, and also a way of looking and practicing in terms of contemporary art and its broad relations to society, to politics, to contemporary life. There are 5 transits all in total, one in the Czech Republic, one in Slovakia, Hungary, Austria, and Romania. And I came together with my colleagues in 2012 to establish the Romanian transit, and we were given the option to present each one of us one transit, so it was a sort of a closed competition, and instead of that we decided to work together. So we proposed a smaller network within the bigger network. So Transit.ro itself was imagined from the beginning as a cooperation institution. We also tried to explain that Romania is a different situation. It's a much larger country and with very different historical and political background when you move from its north to its west and to its south. We proposed an institution based permanently in 3 cities, Iași, which is northeastern Romania, Cluj, which is Transylvania, and Bucharest, the south of Romania. And in each of these cities, we coordinated programs for 8 years already, keeping our autonomy in each place, but also collaborating with each other and with other institutions as well. We founded ourselves on the principles of solidarity and sharing of resources, which was very important from the beginning, of exchange and hospitality. These things which are not so common, especially in the art world, which is usually favoring competition and individualism. So both in our collective work as a bigger network, as a smaller network, and as individual art centers, we are not only producing art, but also talking about the conditions of this production and how they relate to the ensemble of social relations, to the challenges that we are facing in this part of Europe where precarity is the order of the day, and others like that. So it's always a question of reflecting on your own context of working and existing, not only just doing some profession. And I chose to browse through this website of Transit.org, where you can find information about each one of us, and also about Romania. You can search chronologically to see what kind of events we organized, and also by type of event. For anyone interested, I think this website should be a resource as well. I will conclude just by saying that interdisciplinarity has been also one of our main common ideas. Yes, okay, I have a cat in the picture. Just wanted to tell you that there is a model that somehow inspired my work and activity, and this is the model of a garden, which was the trademark of Transit Bucharest, and the way in which this has grown organically in 7 years, and the way it brought together communities and people with very different interests and needs, and the way it provided a shelter for us in many situations. This was what gave me a framework also for other things that I'm doing. And yeah, we can talk more for the second part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reluca, for sharing the pathway, let's say, to where transit is today. I'm sure our audience is a few questions, I guess, like myself, about the network functions and maybe some examples how it works between the cities and the countries and so on in the Q&A. I would like to introduce our next speaker from Germany, Marko Heinke, who is the chairman of the Förderverein Zukunftswerkstatt Paul Gustavus Haus, a sociocultural center in Altenburg, which has been founded since 2009. So Marko is also a member of the Council of the City of Altenburg for the Stadtforum, a politically and economically independent citizens initiative focusing on urban development. He's also a member of the Neue Gründerzeit at the Blauen Flüt in Altenburg, a neighborhood initiative between residents, property owners, and businesses to revitalize this district area. He will present to us what Paul Gustavus Haus does and how exchange is achieved. Marko, our virtual floor is yours, please.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And also hello to the audience, and thank you to the organizers for this talk. I just want to introduce also a little bit Altenburg. It's located in eastern part of Germany, 1 hour south of Germany, and it was struck by a structural change in the 1990s, and it still faces depopulation, unemployment, and a lot of abandoned building. Just today, there are still 50% of the buildings in the inner city, they are empty. And in 2009, as Maria said, a small group got together and founded an association to preserve the Paul Gustavus Haus. This is a factory of coffee substitutes, and to not only to preserve, but also to sustain and to build the building. And after 5 years almost, we got to know that this, what we are doing, we got to know as social cultural activities. And what we are doing in this Paul Gustavus Haus is also to demonstrate alternative uses of these kind of buildings in cultural heritage. For our neighborhood, we also try to empower them with cultural activities, and we are try to involve or to participate them in our social activities. And I just want to say that I split my presentation in theses. Thesis 1 says it needs a place, a venue, or a third place to identify with or to meet, to volunteer, to chill with each other, or even to act with each other. And I think 10 years from now on, or 10 years back, this is the place where we need it and to develop for ourselves. And this is what I want to say to the first thesis. The second thesis. Okay, thank you. The second thesis is founding helps, but it's not a guarantee for activities with a social impact and the change you want to see. And it's also with the thesis 3, the need of an administrative back office for all the volunteer work. I just want to say that the 100 members we already have in the association are all volunteers, and it's a kind of work we have to do. And what I want to say is, in this slide, I want to go back to the budget or the founding of these Paul Gustavus House. We nearly have an average of 80,000 euro income, and approximately 2/3 of this is a founding to invest in the building, and only 1/3 is financed by the commercial purposes, as we're doing by social activities or also from donations for our activities. And what we have now with thesis 3, this is what I want to say, is that after 10 years of volunteer work, we can employ a project manager with 20 hours per week. And this is also a founding by the Free State of Thuringia. And let me say to thesis 4 and thesis 5, for the network, the network of the Paul Gustavus House consists of local partners, also of regional partners, and of international partners. Just to name a few, it's the local museum with international spread, and also the theater in Altenburg. And on the regional level, we work together with other social cultural centers. And on the international level, we took part in START for 3 times in the last year. And I want to say to these theses that it's very important that you identify the key persons in these partner organizations to work with them and to bring projects forward. And also what is common for Altenburg, or a city like Altenburg, is that we are striving to get input from the outside. So we are inviting very often people from the outside to get involved in our projects, or even to realize projects in Altenburg, and we are get involved with their projects. Thesis 6. After 10 years in Paul Gustavus House, there are also some routines, and we are almost doing 100 events during the year. And what is common is that there is always the same procedure as every year. Is a little bit like common, but it's the same. And this is, you have to use the chance of serendipity, and when there's a window open, to create something new, or to create the project new, and to make new networks of collaboration, you have to just get it and try new things. Thesis 7. This is what I want to say. These members of the institution have common understanding, but it's all about humans who interact with each other, and they have their own ideas, own experience. And what I want to say is, with thesis 7, think of project duplication. And this means just instead of giving up or to go outside these organizations, just don't give up your ideas and your project, and use your network of collaboration to realize your project or your idea in another setting. So this is what I want to say with project duplication. Okay, then thank you. This was.
Thank you very much, Marko, for sharing almost 10 years of distilled experiences and through your thesis. I'm sure it is very interesting for all of us in our audience. And maybe there are going to be some questions about how this participation and collaboration in other networks. So let me introduce further our next speaker from Croatia, Hermes Arriaga Sierra. Hermes is an entrepreneur and business innovator with experience in several sectors, with a natural born talent for product steering, creatively materializing ideas into tangible entities, as demonstrated in business development expertise, advising and mentoring more than 100 ventures. He has consulted around 20 organizations like SMEs, NGOs, and governmental bodies through co-creating processes and innovating better businesses. He will present to us Impact Hub Zagreb, which is part of a global network. Hermes, welcome, and let us hear from you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So thank you for this kind presentation. I unfortunately do not have cats in my background. But I hope you have we have a nice conversation after my presentation. So let me click on here. Let's see if this is working. I will give you an introduction about the Impact Hub Network in general. There it is. So thank you for my introduction. I'm not going to say more about who I am. Only maybe highlight, showcasing that I'm one of the co-founders of Impact Hub Zagreb since 2013. And I've been part of the Impact Hub Network since 2010, right? So what is this Impact Hub Network? Well, the Impact Hub Network consists now of 100 different communities around the world. These communities are joining forces to support 16,500 members in 5 different regions. So the coolest thing of this network is how spread it is around the world. It started in 2005 with the first Impact Hub in London, and then it spread all around the world. What is also important is how diverse this network is. It is not only a community of entrepreneurs, but it's also a community of committed individuals that are taking their ideas and their initiatives forward for collective social impact. This is a little bit of our impact of our Impact Hub, of our members, these 60,000 plus members around the world. And this is just a snapshot from 2019. You can see that in 2019, there was around 1,358 new ventures created to a total of 11,000 in all of this time, 12 years, or sorry, since 2012. You can see that the amount of job created by the Impact Hub members, it is quite impactful, right? The majority of them every year, you can see that they have achieved double-digit revenue growth. In this case, in 2019, it was almost 70% of them. And also the profile of the entrepreneurs within the Impact Hub Network, the members within Impact Hub Network, 100 different places around the world, is very diverse. So they care not only about the social return and the financial return, but also about the environmental return. They have attributed the success of their ventures partially related to being part of an Impact Hub around the world, and it's pretty balanced, like between female and male. So it's not only diverse, but it's also very, very balanced in that sense. So I am one of the co-founders of Impact Hub Impact Hub Zagreb, and these are some of the pictures of our Impact Hub. And I'm going to speak on behalf of the network, but also on behalf of my experience with Impact Hub Zagreb as a co-founder and a managing director. I wanted to explore with you a little bit of what are the basic assets needed to set up a sustainable network. And for that, let me give you a couple of cases. The first case is out of a research report that was built in 2018 for Argidius Foundation, And it has shown that the Imper Hub is fostering strong interactions between the members. You can see that the average member interact with 27 different members per year, and has established also up to 9 deep connections just because of the fact that they are working from the same space. The interactions are from other fields and industries, so we are not only focusing on a very particular sector. On the contrary, the more diverse, the better. The large majority of the members participate in informal and formal community meetings. They come to a communal meeting, or even they organize their own meetings at Imper Hubs. And they discuss different things, either related to their own professional activity or somebody else's activity. And the level of interaction is quite high in this sense. So you can see that being part of the Imper Hub community really provides members with personal and professional social support. Almost half of them, the ones who responded in 2019, find the social support quite important in Imper Hub, and help them obviously to be more productive. It has been creating opportunities from one another when they come to Imper Hub. The more they interact with people, you can see that the more they share information, the more they will be talking to them in terms of creating sales opportunities, job opportunities, and in few cases, members also provide financial opportunities with one another. As I mentioned, the more the members interact, the more they collaborate with each other. So the basis of the interaction is not only the fact that they come to Imper Hub. Now, during COVID, you also discover that there is a lot of online interaction, and that was part of the community building process that all of the Imper Hubs are focusing on every time. Also, collaboration is enabled by trust and a sense of belonging, and obviously a strong community norms. Every Imper Hub has different activities that are based on trust, that enhance the sense of belonging. There is no, for a reason, we have 3 values: trust, courage, and collaboration. If you go to every Imper Hub around the world. And lately, the last point on this first case is that the collaboration is further enabled by Imper Hub's infrastructure and program participation. So the Imper Hubs is not only about the space-based model, it is also about the programs of support. We create different entrepreneurial support programs, and the space itself is the platform for them to interact. It's an excuse for entrepreneurs to collaborate with others. The second case is from a from a report made by the University of Economics and Business from Vienna in coordination with Imper Hub Global. And you can see in this report, which is called Beyond Co-working, what are the drivers of collaboration in a shared workspace. The vast majority of people in Imper Hubs, as I mentioned already, interacts regularly with other community members, and they have even joined projects from other members. Collaboration is associated with the increase of work performance. That was also very important for us to discover, that it is directly related, collaboration with the work performance. And some types of co-workers also benefit, I mentioned in the previous case, from collaboration, including people who are participating in the Imper Hub programs of incubation or acceleration and things like that. So my last thing is related to the 8 recommendations for practitioners that were actually coming from this report. And recommendations are related to, for instance, it pays off to facilitate collaboration. The way we are having our Imper Hubs, we have this concept which is called engineering serendipity. So it is basically giving excuses to people to not force them to collaborate, obviously, because that will be counterproductive, but understanding that the places where they will be having a coffee matters, the places where they will be meeting matters, and the design of these spaces matters quite a lot. Make communities your unit of analysis. Obviously, we will need to focus on different communities, and I think Marko's already touched upon some of the things related to this. Beauty and functionality matter. Of course, nicely designed space, it's important. Bringing communities to life through different events and different orientation, meaning our own members are sometimes providing and curating the content that is offered by any Impact Hub. I mentioned about the programs that increase collaboration efficiency, create interfaces to unlikely allies. That definitely means creating also space for having members from other sectors, or we ourselves collaborating from the Impact Hub perspective of the co-founders, collaborating with so-called unlikely allies from different sectors, from different disciplines, because diversity matters when you have people collaborating. And the last two, a community does not always need a physical space, as we saw during the COVID, and right now it is happening. And I mentioned about the living room for serendipity, right? So this is a little bit of a sneak peek of what we have been achieving with Impact Hub and some of the things that have been happening in terms of running sustainable networks with having community in mind, and especially focus on impact entrepreneurs, not only social entrepreneurs. So that's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hermes, for the presentation of the overall network and how it works, and specifically about Zagreb. I'm sure that the brand is quite known in some areas, and maybe it's a good model also for the sociocultural sector or others. Let's see what the audience would like to know further. So I'd like to move on to our last speaker for today, who comes from Greece, and introduce you to Nikos Vandoros. Nikos is an architect with an interest in reusing abandoned buildings. In 2012, he was awarded the Thomaidon Prize for participating in Green School Pilot, while in 2015, he received the START Fellowship, through which he implemented the Urban Game, a project using gaming applications to highlight neglected archaeological sites. Nikos is currently a PhD candidate at the University of Athens on a scholarship, and currently he's working towards strengthening the C4C network that he will present to us today. So Nikos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Thank you for having me here. So as mentioned, I will be talking to you about the Culture for Change network, or in short, C4C. C4C is a network that consists of Greek professionals who deal with the sectors of culture and civil society. All original members are former fellows of the START Create Cultural Change program. And at this time, after a merger with the Greek branch of the BOSS alumni network, we have around 100 active members. Have in mind that C4C is not yet officially a legal entity. So for a network to have so many members before even being fully structured and ready to go is really important. And well, at the same time, it creates some issues, but we will be talking about this later. In a nutshell, C4C is a network with people working towards making an impactful change in their society by using cultural or other practices. Its main target is to bring together like-minded people, encourage them to make collaborations between them, and assist them to evolve as professionals during those precarious times. In order to achieve that, we have been working since 2016. As you can see in this mini time schedule, we have been quite active this last year and have managed to keep a large number of our members engaged. But the most important achievement of 2020 was that we had finally set in stone our identity and vision, and this was not at all easy. In comparative research, we found that many alike organizations may take more than 6 years and up to a decade to achieve this same goal. During this process, we were lucky enough to stumble upon this tool called the Civil Society Toolbox. The toolbox contains lots of exercises and workshop activities that assist teams to build up an organization from scratch. We were actually the first network to use this tool, since it was created for other types of organizations. But we were happy to find out it works for us too, with only some minor adjustments. If somebody in the audience is in a similar position, I recommend they check it out using this link on the bottom right of the page. One thing that the toolbox helped us with was create our governance structure. You see the image, the blue circle represents our network and all its members. In the center, we have the group of directors. And the word directors is inside quotes because it actually means volunteers who deal with all matters that need to be dealt with. All around, we see some light blue circles, which are the working groups that assist the central one. It was those working groups that were in charge of writing the statute, building a financial plan, and getting in touch with potential stakeholders. Inside each and every one of those, there is at least one member of the directors, inside quotes again, that helps them coordinate. Then he or she brings back the knowledge to the central group in order to ensure the best possible cooperation between those satellites and the center. This does not mean that the directors control their working group. It means that he or she is fully aware with the issue that is being dealt with and brings it back to the center for feedback, taking into account the outcome of all other circles. This practice has proven to work surprisingly well. The outer white circle represents the friends of the network, people who can't or do not want to be officially part of C4C, but are interested in our projects and events. The red rectangle represents our supporters, people or organizations of any kind that help us reach our goals. And naturally, the gray rectangle that encloses show is our social surroundings that we want to interact with through our practices. As a network, we have been facing also lots of challenges. One of them is the long distance. The distance makes it hard to bring people together in formal or informal meetings. At least with the coronavirus, this is not a big issue anymore. On the other hand, constantly being forced to use Zoom to communicate is not ideal. This and other similar applications make communication possible in a way that is not able to fit us 100%. It is tiring, people get distracted, and they can't have an actual conversation with the speakers, especially when there are 10 or 20 or even more people attending. But even if they were able to express their opinions, having too many of them may make it difficult for the network to go on. In a vast variety of options, some people may want A, some others B, and others C. This is a very delicate situation that might even lead to conflicts. But the most usual cause of conflicts is the member's absence. It is not uncommon to decide something in one meeting that a certain amount of people attended, and in a second one later on, to decide on something completely different because the attendees are different members who do not want to go along with the original decisions. This kind of event creates a vicious circle that's really hard to deal with. And finally, a big challenge that we faced was trying to become somewhat of a psychic or a mentalist. This is because many times people say something, but in reality they mean something completely different. Or in other cases, they try to move along with the flow, going along with the majority, with what the majority suggests as being correct, thus committing to something they don't actually want to commit. Hopefully, all those challenges don't come without a possible solution. So to beat distance, we use not only Zoom, but all kinds of digital communication. We use emails in conjunction with Facebook notifications. We call members directly on the phone or with personal messaging. And we have a shared folder in the cloud where all members have access and are able to find useful information. Also, before talking through Zoom for meetings, we make members aware of all matters that are on the table, so they have the time to think about them. Also, we include them in the decision-making processes by having them completing questionnaires, which is actually one form of voting that increases participation and engagement. This way, we are able to take into account each and every member's opinion, which we then try to fit into the bigger picture. This is quite hard, but since all parties are usually willing to compromise a bit, it has been working this far. Regarding our absent attendees, what we do is document everything, either in writing or in a video format. That way, everybody is aware of the decisions made, and also we protect ourselves from entering the vicious circle. Lastly, we really cannot avoid trying to play the psychic. In a way, it is kind of our job, because when you take decisions for a whole network, you need to try to take into account the needs of all members. However, what we can do is talk to people and remind them of the vision we have and why they chose to commit. We are a network of professionals, so being true to one's word is really important to us. So thank you for listening. In case you would like to know more about the Culture for Change network, you may send us an email on hello@cultureforchange.net or contact me directly via email or phone. We are always open to new ideas and collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikos. Thank you for taking the time to explain the process of setting up the C4C network. I'm sure our audience would like to know more about it in the Q&A, and especially the toolbox you mentioned. So moving forward to the questions, let me remind you that you as an audience can participate in this conversation by sharing your questions or comments through the Slido app. And you can download the app either through the Google Play or through the App Store. The event code is #91781. I already see questions for one or the other speaker, and so you can also participate through the Facebook live stream. I would like to start with a question. I mean, our focus for today is on the networks, and I would like to ask Sanda. I have a question from our audience, and one I've noted. It is about where is your project today? Where's the network that came out of the project today? And the question from our audience is how difficult is it to develop a common voice with the members of the network while advocating for policy changes? So maybe you give us a little bit of the current situation and how you're working towards policy changes.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for all questions. Actually, I would like to start from how difficult it is to develop common voice. Actually, everything is based on the facts, on researching results. During previous years, during first year of the network and a few years before, we realized a lot of different researching analyses in the region, in all countries. And actually we found that some common interesting points. And after all these 30 transition years in the Western Balkan countries, we found that only through common advocacy initiatives we can change something in our countries, because our politicians are maybe on the first level totally different. They tailoring different policies, but actually they're just copy-paste policy recommendation and solution from each other. And because of that, we start to think on the different way, to think that only through joint initiatives we can make some changes. And actually we succeed in that. During 4 years from 2050 up to end of 2011, 2080, sorry, from 2050 up to 2080, actually through network initiatives and to joint advocacy initiatives, we succeed to change almost 10 policy solutions in all participants' countries, in Bosnia, Serbia, Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, and Turkey. Yeah. Actually, probably the best situation was in Kosovo, because the government in that moment accept a lot of recommendations which are produced through our network. And in period 2017 and 2018, we create a policy solution we create policy solution in Montenegro named Law and Trainingship, because this is recognized as a need of the for all countries. And in this moment, we are in the worst situation, actually. Never mind that that start from the Montenegrians, but law on trainingship is practically implemented in Serbia, in Bosnia, in Kosovo, in Macedonia, partly in Albania, but not in Montenegro yet, because we are trying to we are advocating yet on cancelling of law on professional training and persons with acquired higher education. And in this moment, actually, we are coming to the maybe your first question: where is networking? Where is network today? Maybe we don't have actually we don't have in this moment any official funds, but also we have a lot of contact. We have joint initiatives. We have a personal human contact which is much more important than money in some moments, because when someone have money, they don't know what to do with that. But when you have a goodwill and when you have a clear picture what you want to do in the perspective, changes are really possible. And probably for the end, it's really interesting to add where is the sustainability of the network through activities. Actually, we developed and set up Upbeat Hub, and Upbeat Hub is company through which are engaged practically all partners from consortium countries from one side, and from the other side, as a part of the Upbeat Hub, we create a regional policy lab, and regional policy lab working on creation of policy solution using innovative methodology, which is related to decentralization and deinstitutionalization our system. And I can speak really a lot about YouSee, about Upbeat Hub and everything, because it's something correlated with our everyday life. And maybe I can answer on some another question, because I take a lot of time. Thanks a lot for space.
Thank you very much for explaining. Actually, it's I mean, policy and networks are quite complicated, and it's maybe a more mature level that we see sometimes, that our relationships, as you mentioned, the personal contacts can lead to. So thank you very much for explaining that. A similar point I would like to ask, and I also have a question from the audience for Reluca. First is, if you can give us some examples of how Transit.org is functioning in the different cities in Romania. I mean, you showed us the website with different activities, but what is it that you exchange, for example, beyond the funding, if I got this right, and also with the other countries?
You mean the differences between our programs and practices, or what kind of change are you implying?
I'm mostly referring to how can somebody see the benefits of being in the Transit network by doing several activities, because you have a quite big variety of activities. So where does the network come into your work?
Yeah,
otherwise you could work independently.
Yeah, it is a network of institutions dedicated, first of all, to contemporary art in a very broad, in an expanded sense, of course. But this is this was for us in Romania. This was a given. So the network existed already when we came into the landscape, and we knew what we were joining. So we the transit network by then already had acquired a certain prestige, so to say, at least in the art world. And this, of course, helped us to. It was easier for us to identify with it, and it is not just contemporary art, but one that comes with certain values, with an involvement, let's say, in society, with a look to critical practices, to socially engaged practices. So it was what we were doing as well. Before that, the transit directors. We were running our own independent small organizations in the country and already doing that kind of projects. So what brought us together was first the funding, which was promising in its stability. So Erste Foundation offers this annual funding to all of us, which comes as a sort of pre-given and as a very helpful structural funding that helps us to get other sources. We apply, of course. It's not enough to do all our projects, but it's a prerequisite, so to say. And we came together around the money, but also around these values of the actual network. And then we had the freedom, which is also a very rare thing. So the money did not come with the strings attached. So we had the freedom to design our own projects in the way we saw them necessary for the context where we are operating. So we kept our autonomy, and we found a shoulder to lean on in the bigger network and in the smaller network of Transit Romania. So there were many advantages, but of course there was the need for this funding for us to become interested in this, because we were already operating as NGOs, each one of us. So we were doing the professional activity, and the practice of doing it independently was already there. But we needed, this funding was what, The difference to I don't know, another situation like that is that we just did not take it all, so to say. So the idea of having this network meant that the funding that came for Romania was not multiplied by 3, but we had to split it into our different centers. So this made our work harder, also harder to explain. Why would you do that? Why would you share something rather than try to get it for yourself? But it was really valuable. Also we learned a lot by the way we had to deal with each other and to basically how to operate also economically. And then we also learned that, as some people also said here this evening, money is not everything. It's not, you need, and sometimes when you feel that it's very little, it grows somehow unexpectedly just because you share it. So when you share it, it grows actually rather than diminishing. This is one of the lessons we learned in this process. And it doesn't mean that it's easy, you know. It's just it teaches you different ways of acting and of relating to each other, but it's not easy. And I don't mean by that we should just be happy with whatever we get. No.
No, I think everyone understands what you mean about the infrastructure, but the most important point you mentioned for me is the fact that you were already operating, you were connected, so you decided to split this funding and then join a bigger network, and this creates additional values. Let's say there's an added value to that. Thank you for being honest also about the whole process. It teaches us all very interesting lessons. I would like to ask now, Hermes, a question about networks, generally speaking. I mean, Impact Hub is on its own a very big network. You mentioned 100 different communities globally. So does your Impact Hub in Croatia work with other networks or other institutions in Croatia or the Southeastern European region?
Yes, so we need to, I need to first maybe clarify something. Impact Hub Zagreb, as the same way other Impact Hubs around the world, are part of the global network, right? So it's an association-based network, so we own part of the whole branding and IP around the world. So we are also co-owners, each one of us. In my case, together with my other 5 local co-founders, who started up Impact Hub Zagreb in 2013, based on the branding and business model from Impact Hub Network. It's not a franchise, but it is based on an association model, right? So in that sense, we have different global structures. There is a global association. There's also a global Impact Hub company as the operating body, let's say, from the association that supports us with different services. So being said that, it's important to also mention that Impact Hub Zagreb is definitely connected with Impact Hub Global via collaboration in different levels. So for instance, we have, to give you an idea of this, we have the EU cluster group within Impact Hub Network, and that is the group of Impact Hubs from European Union who are joining forces to coordinate if an Impact Hub wants to apply, or if we as a network would like to apply for a specific fund from European Union. So there is this coordinating body called EU cluster, and that helps quite a lot to have access to the resources that are needed for us to grow the impact. Another example is via Impact Hubs to Impact Hubs. So with Impact Hub Vienna, we've been doing different things and projects together since when we opened in 2013. We brought a program to support students called Social Impact Award in 2014, 2015 for the first time in this region. Later, Impact Hub Belgrade was also doing something similar. Impact Hub Budapest when they opened. So the programming part is also very important, right? Because we co-create different programs together. Right now, the level of co-creation is really amazing at the global level with different Impact Hubs. Right now, I'm part of one corporate innovation program with 5 different Impact Hubs around the world. So yeah, indeed. And now the last part of your question, just to finalize, related to if we do things or collaborate within the country, definitely. I was explaining to you in my presentation that diversity and joining forces with the unlikely allies, it's very important. So for example, we collaborate with academia, with the private sector. We do quite a lot of stuff with the private sector, SMEs, corporates. I mentioned about academia. We have run couple of programs together with the support of some embassies locally and also some governmental bodies. So yeah, it's very diverse the way of we doing different things together at the global level with other Impact Hubs, but also beyond Impact Hub Network with other key stakeholders of the ecosystem of support locally, nationally, regionally, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, it is one thing to be part of a big network because some of your energy goes back to this big existing network, but it's always, I mean, you cannot function actually without being locally present and participating. Thank you, Hermes. My next question is towards Marko. You mentioned that you collaborate with people from the region or from the country and try to participate in international networks. And I know, of course, that you are a member of the German Association of Sociocultural Centers. And I wanted to ask you, how do you collaborate with these networks? I mean, how do you decide, let's say, as an organization, which network has most value for you today, for example?
Thank you for the question. And I think it's not that we rate this network or is useful for us or not, because we are just, the structure in Germany is you have these on the state level, you have these on the Bundesvereinigung, and they support certain programs. And it was like, just for example, the START program, that this is the application came from Berlin, and we just read it, and I know it from my studies how useful international exchange is. And in a city, or at least in our cultural center, where the international exchange isn't that far developed, I think it's really important to take part in these kind of offers from a network, and this is very useful. And also to add just an actual case is that a collaboration with the Social Cultural Center in Weimar, the Upper Music Academy, which they were here in Altenburg just a few weeks ago. And we collaborate in another program. This is Tandem for Culture. So this is very useful for us, especially for our members, to get in touch with other people and to get to know what is possible, and not only to look what is possible with the building or what is possible around the street, but just to have a look, okay, what's possible, just not only limited to the city at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So beyond the city, let's say,
right,
our locality.
Okay.
And going now to you, Nikos, you told us in your presentation that the network has used the civil society toolbox to design the government's model, and quite quickly, if I understood well. So where is the network today in terms of legal entity? I'm not sure if you mentioned this.
We're almost there. We need a couple more months. The statute is ready. The lawyer is dealing with all the bureaucracy. Now we just need to wait for the court to make a decision. But it's all typical stuff. In the end of November, we expect to have our network up and running. Unless, of course, there's some coronavirus incident again. But we expect to have it in late November.
Okay, thank you very much. I have from our audience, from the Slido up, a question for Reluca, which I think applies more or less to all of you. So the question is, in the era of social distancing, how difficult will it be for your network to continue strengthening your relationships with your communities? So please, Reluca, maybe you can start and I can get the feedback from everyone before we move slowly towards the end.
Yeah, it has been a tough year, to be honest. There are other projects, other networks that I am part of, and where it has been easier because distance was already implied. For example, an editorial project, a magazine that I'm co-publishing, and this hasn't changed so much in our way of working because we are based in different cities. But for transit and for the work that we were doing, it has been hard. There are things like exhibitions which can be done, which we can continue to do, and even maybe with less pressure from this achieving ticking these numbers, which was this kind of quantifying our production, which was completely not going in the right direction. And I think this is something which could be good also for public museums and other such institutions, which can focus more on the actual content and on the research and on making things properly, rather than attempting to achieve thousands of visitors like pop culture, So there are also good things. So we continue to make exhibitions, for example, which can reach people, but in different ways, not with these crowds being there all the time. And for other sort of community work, of course, it also depends on spaces, on funding. There hasn't been so much relief funding this year for cultural independent institutions in Romania, unfortunately. There has been a bit for artists and cultural workers, but really very little. And there are some dramatic situations with performing arts, for example. And we don't know yet. We haven't seen the effect of the crisis yet. I think the worst is yet to come. What we can do is to use, to use the skills that we have developed over these years in having also sort of deeper or closer discussions with people that can still happen also despite the distance. So I think it's a double edge, let's say. I think you can see it as something completely damaging, or you can try to take the good part of it and hope that it doesn't last, because if it lasts very long, it is indeed, I don't know, I can't even imagine, but I'm confident and optimistic that it won't last that much longer. So we will have had each other, to share the experience and to tell us how we cope with it, and then even to find some comfort. So this is a great advantage comparing to when you work alone. And I don't know anyone who works alone, actually.
Thank you very much, Reluca. To you, Sanda, so the question applies, it's the same, how is social distancing affecting, your relationship and network building with your communities? Your microphone is muted.
Okay, probably. Yeah, thank you. Probably, Maria, that is the most expensive question that we can imagine in this moment. Actually, when we are talking about YouSee network which is related directly to the social innovations and generally policy, which is related to youth employment, as long as we have decision makers who are irresponsible creators of employment policies and who are ignoring the development of innovations and who are ignoring the changes that are happening in our environment, I believe that the network will not have a real challenge to survive. Actually, I believe in social capital, and I think that is the biggest value of each network. And our biggest value really is social capital, and I believe in the community, in community interactions. And in these challenging times, for sure, in each segment and regarding each question of YouSee network, actually the physical distance, it's not cannot be a real obstacle in surviving. The youth employability and placement of the youth knowledge and placement of the youth creativity is much more challenging than the surviving of the network, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sounds pragmatic, if I may say. Thank you for sharing with us. To you, Nikos, social distancing, you mentioned that it has actually affected you. So how do you think in continuing to run your network, it's going to affect you further?
Well, it is really hard because the way that people make connection is when they meet, when they sit around the table and eat something. when they talk to each other, not through formal ways. So at this moment, we're actually trying to reinvent what we were doing and trying to fit it in a digital way. We can't take what we had been doing in the past and try to force it through Zoom because it doesn't work. It is really very hard. In the toolbox that I mentioned before, there are some exercises that we found out that they fit this digital way. They're not chaotic. People are able to do them fast in a structured way. Anyway, we tried to take this example and fit it to our targets. It is a very hard procedure, and we're trying to make something entirely new at this point, because whatever we had been trying in the past is not able to work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for sharing also this the toolbox, that it has some things that we can use also from a distance. So Marko, same goes for you. How do you see social distancing affecting your activities, and maybe the planned ones or maybe any new ones?
Okay, just to add that our organization was also hit because we are doing nearly 100 events a year. So now since March, we are just hit that we are prolonged or even stopped with some events. However, this was like thesis 6, when I say leave routines and use the chance of serendipity and go new ways. This was also that we are tried, even with a physical distance, trying to do some events just outside the building and to invite the people who looked or wanted to do something, just to give them the opportunity. So like the summer festival, we did it even because of physical distance, but we didn't play it within the building, but we played the facade. So the whole windows were open and we played outside. So, and this was just a new way of doing something, and also for the audience looking at the Paul Gustavus House had their fun and during these times. And I also want to say that we are voluntary working, so we are not hit in that way like other institutions are who are paying workers. But now we had the time during voluntary works like to write concepts or like to write applications. Usually during the year we don't have time for this because we have these 100 events. So this is like a quid pro quo, yeah. That we have more time to do something which is maybe relevant for the next year or for the next 2 years. So usually we look like next month, next half year or so. So we could look further in this future. So this is one advantage of this.
Yes, it sounds like one. Actually, I think all of us have to dig for this quality time to write applications, whether it is for participating in a network, for a new space, or for project funding, organization funding. This is indeed a good time. This is an opportunity to seize, actually. And that leads me to you, Hermes, to ask you as well, how do you see social distancing affecting the development or even practice, everyday life of Impact Hub Zagreb?
Sure. Well, first of all, we are fighting locally the conceptualization of social distancing. So we call it physical distancing instead of social distancing. Why? Because even during this era, or during the pandemic era, which is not going to be the first time in our lifetime, I'm sure, we will need to be more socially close. Physically distancing, but socially close. So what does that change of angle of perspective means for us in the business of Impact Hub Zagreb? And in general, within the whole Impact Hub network, it means that, first of all, we need to rethink our business model, because obviously the co-working space, because I mean, co-working happens to be a secondary effect of our business, right? We are not really showing ourselves in the market as a co-working spaces. We are rather a platform of innovators, of change makers. And that's this platform, it has shown that it can also be online. We can also take certain measurements or actions that will enhance this social closeness, or in a way that you need to be available within your community. You need to strengthen the relationships, either offline or online. So we needed to change the focus and the perspective when we were dealing with a new business model, but also with the new redefinition of what does it mean supporting our communities, right? So what happens, and one of the beauties of being part of a global network is that even if you are in Hong Kong, where there is an Imperial Hub, or in Ottawa or South Africa or Athens, you are facing more or less the same similar realities. Because in a globalized world, it's just the fact that it's the case, and that means you have a lot of knowledge. So we have our communities of support within our Imperial Hubs as makers. Makers are the staff members, the co-founders from each one of the Imperial Hubs, who came together very often during some of the countries during their lockdown, or right now, even when some of the Imperial Hubs are working at half of their capacity, or some of them are not even open. I mean, the majority of these 100 around the world are already open, but some of them are not. So this connectivity worldwide has allowed us to really talk with one another, supporting one another, and also looking for ideas and concepts of how we can support our own members and the communities that we tackle for, right? That we work with. So yeah, it's been redesigning our own concept of how do we run the business. But at the end, we have at the same, still the community is the base of everything. In the past, we say like the physical space is the platform, or it's an excuse for the community. Now we're already thinking on no. The community is the excuse for people to meet, and it's really the reality and what has been happening with all of the situation in this 2020. Yeah.
Thank you, Hermes. I think what you are saying is actually what we've been trying to put forward in our start event. It's about shifting perspectives, and this is what we all do all the time in the social and cultural world. And I would like to thank you once more, all of you speakers, for joining us. It was very interesting to get an overview of how different networks are born, are developed, face challenges, and thank you again.
Thanks to you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you to the production team behind this online event, of course, and dear viewers, thank you for being with us today. See you all in our next session tomorrow, Wednesday, September 30th at 18 hours European Eastern Time, with the 8th talk on restoring and accelerating international collaboration in Southeastern Europe. If what you heard today sounds interesting, I invite you to share your story by registering at our events page in the startgreece.net website. And until then, stay safe and join us on social media.
Thank you, Maria.